Ahoy! My name is Melany. It's that time of year again, and may I wish you all a very happy Pride Month. The month of being proud of who you are and people being angry at you for being who you are, followed by plenty of controversy from people spewing hate over the mere existence of queer people and the celebration of them and their struggles. Controversy is absolutely ingrained into the LGBTQ community from its very beginning. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. But this applies to just about every aspect of potential controversy you could dream up. Anything from the world of politics to representation involving media, and of course, the world of video games. Now, I've already broadly discussed the concept of controversy in gaming in an older video. However, in terms of controversies in gaming regarding the LGBTQ in any capacity, good lord, there's a lot to dissect. Especially in more recent years with LGBTQ acceptance and normalcy on the rise, this sort of thing is happening more and more often. So, in absolutely no particular order, let's go over a few games that sparked controversy in some way that were related to the LGBTQ, while also tossing my own personal opinion about each of these controversies. Let's start off rather simply with one of my favorite games of all time, Tomodachi Life. For those unaware, Tomodachi Life is a life sim game for the 3DS released in America in 2014. The premise of the game involves making Miis of yourself, friends, family, fictional characters, etc., and putting them on an island. From there, you as the player have to solve problems for your islanders. Anything from feeding them, making friends, playing games, town events, or even finding love. This is where our controversy begins. So one of the major events in this game is when two Miis fall for one another and begin dating, and then eventually marrying each other to raise a family. The controversy lies in the limitations of this feature. In this game, there are no same-sex couples allowed. Mii couples had to be of opposite genders. If you desperately wanted to have a same-sex Mii couple, one of the Miis would have to be technically labeled as the opposite gender. Which, oh my god, that sucks. In the lead up to the game's release, the missing feature would stir up some controversy. This would lead to an online campaign known as Mequality, led by Ty Marini. Ty would upload a video online to get the ball rolling on Mequality, where he states that the then upcoming Tomodachi Life game would not feature same-sex couples, which would mean him and his then fiancée Mii would be unable to have relationships or get married. Ty also notes that this would also be the case for many other gamers in the LGBTQ community. Due to the controversy within the Nintendo player base spawned by Mequality, Nintendo of America would make a statement to the Associated Press on May 7, 2014. They would go on record stating,
Nintendo never intended to make any form of social commentary with the launch of Tomodachi Life. The relationship options in the game represent a playful alternate world rather than a real-life simulation. We hope that all of our fans will see that Tomodachi Life was intended to be a whimsical and quirky game, and that we were absolutely not trying to provide social commentary.
So, yeah, that's gross. This statement did not go over well with the community, especially within the Mequality campaign. Given the fact that Nintendo basically just said, gay people are a political statement, and we're scared of politics. This statement proved to be so unpopular, Nintendo was forced to walk it back just 2 days later.
We apologize for disappointing many people by failing to include same-sex relationships in Tomodachi Life. Unfortunately, it is not possible for us to change this game's design, and such a significant development change can't be accomplished with a post-ship patch. At Nintendo, dedication has always meant going beyond the games to promote a sense of community and to share a spirit of fun and joy. We are committed to advancing our longtime company values of fun and entertainment for everyone. We pledge that if we create a next installment in the Tomodachi series, we will strive to design a gameplay experience from the ground up that is more inclusive and better represents all players.
Alright, so let's unpack and discuss this. First off, good to see Nintendo apologize for the brain-dead statement from 2 days prior. But in terms of the nitty-gritty of what they're claiming, while I definitely understand that Nintendo did not have the time to include same-sex relationships in the game at launch, I really failed to see what they mean by same-sex relationships being impossible to add due to it being a significant development change. Just add a box in the Mii creator that lets you specify what gender a Mii is interested in, and the issue is almost completely solved. Keep in mind, however, I'm not a game developer, so while it's easy for me to just say shit, I have no idea how easy or hard a change like this would be. So take this all with a grain of salt, but I really fail to see how a change like this couldn't be accomplished in an update. What that reads as to at least most of the fan base is, we didn't want to. Then there's the second half. Nintendo promised that in the event of a sequel to Tomodachi Life, they'd include same-sex relationships. This feels like this was Nintendo's way of trying to lose the negative press that they were getting, because while this sounds like a nice compromise at first, this is a very shallow promise. Because who's to say if this game was ever going to get a sequel? It was very easy for Nintendo to just make a bunch of empty promises and go from there. And no, Nintendo never kept this promise. Nintendo has made a few similar games to Tomodachi Life, most notably Miitomo and Miitopia, but neither of these games included romance options where this was possible. Miitopia did have a feature for raising the friendship level of any two Miis to soulmate status, but that is in no way a replacement for the romance game feature. And no, this does not count as a same-sex relationship in a Tomodachi Life sequel. Soulmate friendship status just means the two Miis are really close friends, and that's it. There's no portrayal of anything romantic between any Miis on soulmate status. It's just an empty status. For the record, Tomodachi Life is one of my favorite games of all time, so keep in mind my extra harsh attitude towards Nintendo here comes from a place of love towards this game, but overall, this was a moment where Nintendo really dropped the ball and sparked mainstream controversy over LGBTQ themes being omitted from the game. Now on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have The Sims. The Sims has always been somewhat connected to LGBTQ issues, usually in a better way than not. The first Sims game was actually almost canned while in development. However, during a live stage demo of the game at E3 1999, two lesbian Sims shared a kiss which sparked so much buzz that Maxis decided to let the project finish and release. However, in terms of more recent controversy, The Sims 4 sparked a pretty big controversy in late 2023 due to an update to the game that added things like binders and top surgery scars. This is an awesome inclusion that absolutely nobody should be surprised that transphobes lost their shit over. And it wasn't anything new. Transphobes argued that the game was promoting fucking body mutilation. Many politicians and right-wing commentators kept spewing out the same tired old points of shit like The Sims was grooming children to bodily deformities, or some tired old shit like that. God, do y'all think these fuckers ever get tired of spewing disgusting hatred? Like, I know none of this type of outrage is new to anyone, and I'm far from breaking new ground saying this, but I stand by my words. Does this ever get fucking exhausting, being a hate-filled, vengeful, mean, and angry asshole to people? Ugh, anyways. On the positive side, wow, I am so happy to see that this is here. I learned this last year while doing my transgender representation in gaming video, but it is depressingly rare to find transgender men being represented in gaming. Like, I remember while working on that video getting legitimately really sad by the time I finished my script at the realization of how few trans men were in games. So, having this in The Sims 4, I don't know, it feels sort of vindicating. I wish I had known about this last year. And in a game like The Sims 4, this sort of thing does feel like a needed addition. I never thought I would say this, but hats off to EA. But still, fuck you. Next up, we have a game whose controversy was just stupid at all angles. Starfield, the highly anticipated, mostly disappointing, new game from Bethesda dropped last year, and there was definitely all sorts of discussion about how this game came out. Some people loved it, some hated it, some meh, but there was one aspect of the game that sparked outrage everywhere in gamers.
Fucking pronouns!
Yes, the big LGBT related controversy tied to this game was over a fucking pronoun selection box at the beginning of the game. That's dumb. Like, I can't at all act shocked that the anti-woke gender critical crowd got pissed off about this, but like, bro, come on. This is Starfield, one of the most divisive games in recent memory. You're telling me that the biggest outrage of this game was over fucking pronouns? Yeah, I don't know why I'm acting surprised either. Controversy sparking due to something incredibly minor in relation to the LGBTQ is depressingly common. Controversy sparking over shit like pride events in the Minecraft marketplace, or the removal of transphobic elements in GTA 5, the world's most minor bullshit in the world that somehow ends up connecting back to gay people, just gets the anti-woke crowd shitting themselves in anger, like, bro, shut up. But in terms of larger stuff, let's talk about the Persona series. Now, heads up before getting into this, I am not a Persona fan. I've never played any Persona game before in my life. I don't know much about this, and I had to go off the information given to me by other people I spoke to. So please bear with me if there's any inaccuracies with this segment. Now then, in Persona 3, there's an infamous scene in which your party attempts to hit on a woman at the beach. However, while hitting on her, one of the guys notices that she has a tiny bit of facial hair on her chin that she forgot to shave, meaning she's actually trans, with the entire joke of the scene being that the boys were hitting on a trans girl. Ew. Yeah, I'm sure I don't need to tell you how grossly transphobic this scene is. I mean, the game was from 2006, so I'm not surprised they made the trans woman here the butt of the joke, but like, ew. Yeah, this aged like milk. So, when Persona 3 got re-released in 2024 as Persona 3 Reload, this scene was changed quite a bit. The scene was changed from the joke being that she's a trans woman to the scene just being about a woman that's crazy. Honestly, this was probably for the best. There are those who are against this removal, namely those who claim this is unnecessary censorship, to which my response to that is, from what I can gather, the scene really isn't that important to the story. This being changed really is just for the best, given how uncomfortable this scene became in more recent years. Like, Ew. This isn't even the first time lines were changed for a reissue of a Persona game. Persona 5 Royal had some minor controversy due to the removal and change to homophobic scenes in the game. In Persona 4, there's a character named Naoto, who presents as male. That is, until you get to their dungeon in the game. Here, it's revealed that the character is actually female, and presents as a male due to sexist discrimination. So by presenting as a dude, Naoto can actually be taken seriously in their field. After this reveal, Naoto is referred to as she/her pronouns throughout the rest of the game. From what I'm able to gather researching online about this, there seems to be a bit of a controversial debate in the Persona fandom on whether or not this means the character is transcoded or not. Personally, I read this as not a story about a trans dude, but rather a story of a woman facing discrimination in their work field and disguising themselves as a guy to get around the sexism. However, again, I've never played anything related to Persona 4, so take that all with a pinch of salt. I see nothing wrong with fans wanting to headcanon Naoto as a trans dude, but from what I can gather, this wasn't a case of the character being transgender. But let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to see what actual Persona fans would make of this character's gender identity. Still on the topic of Persona 4, another character, Kanji, is shown to be into Naoto both before and after the Naoto reveal, implying that he's bisexual. There's another character, Yosuke, who is particularly interesting to note because he is notably very homophobic towards Kanji. However, from what I can gather online, Yosuke was supposed to be dateable, and him being dateable would expand on that into giving proper context. However, him being dateable was scrapped very late into development, which just makes him come off as a homophobic straight dude. A lot of Persona's controversy stemmed from fans crying out that the removal of questionable content was unnecessary censorship. Well, here's a more recent example of this occurring with a much more widely popular game. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door's Switch reissue released in May of 2024. I recently played through this game, I loved it to death, it's a masterpiece, go play it. However, the controversy this game sparked in regards to one of the characters, Vivian. I touched on this briefly in my transgender characters video, but basically, in the original GameCube version of the game, Vivian has an interesting characterization depending on which version of the game you played. The American version just had Vivian portrayed as a cisgender woman who was bullied by her sister Beldam for being ugly. However, in the original Japanese release of the game, Vivian was mostly portrayed as a transgender woman, with Beldam referring to Vivian as a man. I talked about this in my transgender representation video with a very melancholy note. However, Vivian's finally been vindicated. Both the Japanese and American scripts for this game correctly gender her as a female and directly state that she is a transgender woman. This is wonderful to see. It made me so happy to see when I was playing through the game, because now we have a Mario game with an indisputably transgender character. Sure, we've always had Birdo, but Birdo's reasoning for being transgender left just barely enough room for those to claim that she's cisgender. This, I would love to see people refute this. Well, there was a decent bit of controversy regarding Vivian's gender identity in the Switch reissue of this game. As expected, plenty of people were crying and losing their shit over the fact that Nintendo had gone woke or whatever the fuck. Boring shit. But then we have people grasping at straws to claim that this was woke censorship or a mistranslation. Sadly, I need to address these claims, I suppose. Fair warning though, I do have a bit of a bias in that I fucking love Vivian so much. I even got this Vivian phone case I saw on Etsy after playing the game, alongside this 3D printed statue, and these plushies. I love Vivian. Regardless of her gender, I fucking adore this character. Anyways, in the original Japanese release of The Thousand Year Door, Vivian is portrayed as a transgender woman. However, the game is a little inconsistent about the way it goes about portraying this part of Vivian. For starters, her character bio claims that despite her appearance, she is a boy. Additionally, several characters tend to misgender her relentlessly. Additionally, in Super Paper Mario on Wii, Vivian has a tiny cameo in the game as a catch card. In the description for her catch card, Vivian is referred to as a Otokonoko, meaning male daughter. So the game clearly thinks of Vivian as at best a femboy of sorts. Okay, remember that scene in which Beldam calls Vivian a man? Well, this sparks up after Vivian refers to herself as a shadow sister. She is a character clearly wants to be recognized as a woman, as Beldam and Marilyn's sister. Even if the game's narration or other characters fail to see her as a woman, it's clear that Vivian sees herself as a woman. And as I look more and more into the discussion regarding this game's relocalization and Vivian's portrayal, it becomes more and more clear to me that a lot of these people aren't actually against censorship or want the game to have a more faithful localization. They just hate trans people and don't want to see them in their Paper Mario game. Not all people in this discussion are like this. Some people are just peeved with other minor changes to the localization, potentially including this one. And that's fair enough if you just want the remake's localization to be one-to-one with the original Japanese or American releases on the GameCube. But then we have people like this, who have made a mod for the game to literally only restore Vivian's original betrayal from the American GameCube release and absolutely nothing else. Like, come the fuck on, guys. At the end of the day, Vivian is trans, and that's awesome. Anyone who doesn't like that can go fuck themselves. And regardless of what Vivian's gender is, she's amazing and I love her. Like, you guys seriously have no idea how much Vivian brain rot I've got since this game's release. I'm genuinely obsessed with this character. I love her so much. I'm gonna end up going bankrupt from buying Vivian merch off of Etsy. Anyways, now, we've talked about several LGBT-related controversies in gaming. However, these final two, these are the big ones. These next two games and their controversies were and are massive. So, without further ado, let's discuss them. First up of these two is a game whose controversy likely needs no introduction. Hogwarts Legacy. Ugh! Alright, so this one occurred pretty recently, and there's a heavy amount of nuance to this topic. I'm gonna do my best to provide perspective on both sides of this controversy the best I can, but to be clear, I do have a heavy bias in this discussion, and this will not be an unbiased look at this controversy. Anyways, Hogwarts Legacy is a game that released in 2023. The game was developed by Avalanche Software. You may know them for being the developers of the Disney Infinity series, and a handful of licensed kids games, mostly Disney games. Hogwarts Legacy was a big game for the studio, as the studio was essentially attempting to create a AAA game based upon the Harry Potter universe. And admittedly, if you were a Harry Potter fan, there was a lot to be excited about. This was a pretty expansive and impressive looking game. There was just one issue. This is J.K. Rowling, the famed author of the Harry Potter franchise. While she's historically been prevalent as a famous author who created one of the most beloved and successful franchises in all of media, these days she's known for a more depressing reason, being a transphobic jackass online under the guise of feminism. I'm sure I don't need to elaborate further on this. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you know exactly what I mean by this. So anyways, upon the announcement of a massive AAA video game in a franchise that financially supports a massively transphobic individual, controversy broke out. A debate began online on whether or not it was ethical to support a game that supports a harmful cause. In this game, the harmful cause being a transphobist's pockets. This spawned a boycott campaign from pro-transgender activists online. Their reasoning was that the game directly supported the pockets of J.K. Rowling. However, the game also came under fire for alleged anti-Semitism. Villains in this game include these goblin creatures, featuring many of the same characteristics of traditionally anti-Semitic depictions of Jewish people. Ew, gross. Then there's the other side of the argument. People argued that it was important to not boycott the game, as a means to support developers who worked hard on this game. This was one of the biggest talking points from people who opposed this boycott. Here's the problem with that. The developers were already paid for their work on the game. Like, the developers aren't paid upon how much Hogwarts Legacy sells. The money from the purchase of this game goes to the people at the top, higher ups at Avalanche, Warner Bros. Games, Warner Bros. Discovery, and of course, she must not be named. So the argument in favor of supporting the game for that reason is bullshit. Despite how bullshit this was, many streamers and influencers and individuals on social media chose to use this argument. Additionally, I saw several people use the argument that it'd be hypocritical to try and boycott this game for support of transphobia, when buying most things supports a bad cause. Here's the issue with this argument. There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. As an example, a large amount of food products in the world are produced by Nestle. Nestle is one of the most evil corporations in the world. Seeing how horrible of a company Nestle is, it's only natural to want to boycott them. Good fucking luck with that. Nestle owns a shitload of brands, making it unclear to most which goods are owned by Nestle and by proxy, which goods are going to bad causes. It is possible to research and figure out which brands are to be avoided because of Nestle's unethical, inhumane business decisions, but that is not at all something that's practical to do just due to the sheer amount of products they sell. Compare this to Hogwarts Legacy. There's no ambiguity on what a purchase of this game supports. Buying Hogwarts Legacy supports the Harry Potter franchise, which supports the Turf Lady. Turf Lady equals bad. So this just comes off as an incredibly tone-deaf and weak argument. Then there was just a basic level trans people bad or Turf Lady based comments and people who were unbothered by the controversy just due to the fact that they hate trans people. The boycott started by pro-trans activists got people to start heavily pressuring streamers and online gaming influencers to steer clear of this game. Some obliged, some didn't. Some doubled down in an incredibly embarrassing manner or played the victim card when people got pissed off at them for playing the bad game. This led to an infamous website being launched. This website, known as HaveTheyStreamedTheWizardGame.com, was basically just a site to keep track of what streamers had streamed the game and which ones hadn't. On paper, this sounds like a good tool to see if your favorite streamer decided to play the game and act accordingly on if you wish to support them or not any longer, but in reality, this ended up leading to people just blindly harassing streamers who had streamed the game, And like, listen, most streamers who choose to play and stream this game, I hold no respect for. That being said, harassment is bad. Period. Don't harass people online. That's just fucking disgusting. Shame on you if you participate in this genuine online harassment. And in my opinion, this site did a lot more harm than good. Hell, the site ended up going down only a day and a half after the game itself came out. I'm gonna level with you. This whole controversy is a miserable fucking mess. People just going at each other's throats on the morals of playing a game that apparently isn't even that fucking good. And for the record, I am on the side that thinks that boycotting the game was the better way to go about this game. But even then, good lord, do people seriously misunderstand what it means to separate art from the artist? But alas, amidst all of the controversy, the developers for the game over at Avalanche revealed that they had added a transgender character to the game. I am still utterly baffled by this decision. I don't think this did the game any favors for any individuals. The character in question is Serona Ryan, a minor character who ran an inn in the Hogwarts universe. I'm gonna be honest, I think this character's inclusion to this game genuinely did more harm than good. Like, the name of this character, Serona Ryan. Maybe myself and several other people in the transgender community have our tinfoil hats on a bit too tight, but like, come on. Serona Ryan, that shit feels up there with other characters in the Harry Potter universe like Kingsley Shacklebolt or Cho Chang, names for characters who are black and Asian respectively. Like, I'll act in good faith and hope that there was at least some good intentions behind Serona Ryan's inclusion to this game, but I'm really not holding my breath. So, this really did not do much to help soothe the efforts of the boycotts, while also upsetting the anti-woke, anti-trans crowd. None of this really mattered in the end, as the boycott was largely unsuccessful. Hogwarts Legacy was a commercial success ultimately, selling 24 million copies worldwide, making the game the most successful video game of 2023. And critically, it garnered a mixed to positive reception. I'll take the copium and say that this is quite unfortunate. Like, really? Gamers wanted to play this game that badly and in fucking droves? But at least this toxic fucking conversation is for the most part done and over with, and only losers with no life are still talking about this game. Hey, wait a second. Alright, let's finally end on a positive note. Bridget from Guilty Gear. She's perhaps one of the most iconic transgender characters in all of media, let alone just in gaming. However, Bridget's story throughout Guilty Gear has been under scrutiny due to how difficult it can be to fully understand what is canon and when. Bridget first appeared in Guilty Gear XX in 2002, as a character just meant to be cute and different from the rest of Guilty Gear XX roster. At this point in time, Bridget identified as male. The general gist is that Bridget was a twin to her brother, and that the town had this whole superstition about twin brothers, and it was up to a point where if you had twin boys, you were expected to either put them up for adoption or straight up fucking murder one of the kids. Great start. So Bridget's family, being unwilling to lose a child, decided to raise Bridget as a girl. According to Ishiwata, in the 11th volume of Developer's Backyard for Guilty Gear Strive, despite their intentions to protect Bridget, it pained her parents to do so as they felt they were forcing her to live a certain way. Bridget, realizing this, attempted to bring wealth to the village while also attempting to prove her masculinity by becoming a bounty hunter. This overturning the village superstition as a way to free her parents from their guilt. This was Bridget's betrayal in Guilty Gear XX. Essentially, a boy dressed as a girl by their family. Even in just this one game, Bridget stood out and very quickly became a fan favorite. In fact, as part of Bridget's popularity, fans spawned an internet meme, "Everyone's gay for Bridget," which I'm sure is very self-explanatory. Years later, Bridget got to make another appearance in a Guilty Gear game, this time in 2021's Guilty Gear Strive. Her appearance in this game makes key differences from how she was portrayed in XX. Her story in Guilty Gear Strive is that Bridget actually became a successful bounty hunter. As a result, the superstition faded, and nothing remained to restrict how both Bridget and her parents lived. After this, Bridget tries living as a man, but it doesn't feel right. This is where the arcade mode story in Guilty Gear Strive begins. After her exchanges with Gold Lewis and Kai, Bridget faces parts of herself that she had tried to ignore, and makes a big decision for herself.
For the sake of your future self.
For my future self. But what if I make the wrong decision?
You got your whole life ahead of you, kid. Gotta learn to take a hit sometime.
And there are helping hands right in front of you.
I don't want to run scared anymore. If I keep on faking it like this, I know I'll regret it. So from now on, no matter what, no more lying to myself. Thank you. Both of you.
Don't mention it. Happy trails, cowgirl, or, cowboy.
Cowgirl is fine, because I'm a girl.
but down inside me, I made up one voice. Only I'm not there, just watching from afar. There is nowhere to go.
She's a girl. Of course, this wasn't without its backlash by various groups, saying it was a mistranslation or a butchering of the character's original intent, many being upset over the alleged mishandling of their favorite quote-unquote femboy character. However, when asked about it, Ishiwara stated,
We've received many inquiries about Bridget's gender. After the events of Bridget's story in arcade mode, she self-identifies as a woman.
Of course, this, much like many previous controversies, does not stop people from doubling down and just getting downright embarrassing about it. However, it speaks infinitely more volumes that the company doubled down on this decision and made a whole beginning section of a blog post about it. And while there's a small minority of people livid over Bridget's current gender identity, I've seen far more people lovingly praise Bridget as a character. People have seen themselves in Bridget, and that's for the better. If you want to learn more about Bridget and Guilty Gear, I strongly recommend checking out this video by Ricky Hirsch. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. She goes into far more detail than I ever could in her own video. I'll link it in the description below. So that was a very, very brief look at queer-related controversies in the gaming community. Alright, let me level with you. This was one of the most miserable scripts I've ever had to write. Each time I sat down at my desk to keep writing about various controversies where people blew a gasket over the mere existence of queer people, character being queer, or whatever, it slowly was just chewing away at me. Hence why this video took so long to get out. Sorry. And while a lot of the controversy I've discussed today was rather pointless in the grand scheme of things, or was just hateful people being angry for the sake of being angry, it is a bit depressing, to be frank, to have to just constantly see people like myself being utterly shat upon for the crime of having people like us in a piece of media. I'm gonna be honest, it's getting harder and harder to find queer joy in the world. The future constantly looks bleaker and bleaker and bleaker for queer people's safety. And while there have undoubtedly been efforts to make shit better for queer people, it's kind of just a question of for how long. There are larger and larger groups of people at this point fighting tooth and nail to make life for queer people harder and worse. Not to mention bigger groups of people spreading just bigoted and unapologetic hatred on whatever platform they may have. Tying things back to LGBT controversy in gaming, characters like Vivian or Bridget, or games like The Sims and I guess even fucking Starfield, may have caused immense backlash and hate from a loud group of people. It would be self-destructive to look the other way to the genuine positive impact these games have left on people. I've seen so many people I know see themselves in Vivian's or Bridget's stories. People getting to express themselves in The Sims with its queer inclusionary features, or even just the fucking convenience of choosing your pronouns in Starfield. It's important to embrace the positive impact of everything I've discussed today, and this applies to all media with queer representation of any kind. My point is that for all the cruelty you'll find in the world, whether it be from dumbasses online or political figures or even your own family, there's just as much love and joy to be found in the world. While preparing to write this video, I remember seeing a post online where somebody confessed that Bridget's appearance in Guilty Gear Strive helped open their eyes to see what they were missing from themselves. That if not for Bridget finally coming to terms with herself and being who she wanted to be, that they likely never would have been able to either, and furthermore, may not have been alive today. I'm sure characters like Vivian have been no different either. And through all of the hatred, if even a handful of people can find positive meaning in their lives as an effect of these games, then it's worth the cruel bigotry from the unkind. Happy Pride Month, everybody.